Welcome back to Pride. In today's video we have a request. We're going to be giving an in-depth review on the Century Bob. Now let's start off by taking a look at the back of the Century Bob. This is where I would imagine damage would occur. This is where the torso of the dummy attaches to the freestanding bag. You got 3 screws on each side with a washer for each screw. I did check to retighten these after I initially set up the Century Bob and used it for about 2 months when I originally bought it, and the screws did not need retightening. They didn't loosen, and over time I've checked them from time to time and they've never come loose. So these screws stayed real tight, everything stayed secure, no rips, no damage. And other than cleaning this bob a little bit here and there, I haven't had to use anything to the material to keep it from fraying or keep it from cracking or anything like that. So it's really held up well with the amount of use that we've gotten out of this bob. And as you can see on the front of the Century Bob, no real damage other than a little bit of scrapes here and there. I also use martial arts weapons on this Century Bob, practice weapons, wooden swords, kendo sticks, nunchucks, things like that on this Century Bob, and he's withstood everything. So no real damage, no rips, no tears, no reason why I can't continue to use them, no damage. Now we'll take a quick look at the Century Bob's height adjustments. Got 7 settings. This is his lowest setting. This is number 1. Smoothly comes right out of the setting, right up to the next one. This is setting number 2. I'll stand up just to give you an idea. His lowest setting is pretty short. It's probably just over 4 feet. His second setting. His third setting. All the settings are still pretty smooth after all this time of using them. 4th setting. 5th setting. I'm just over 5'10". He's already a little bit taller than me here. 6th setting, and his last setting is 7th height, 78 inches, 6.5 feet. The higher the setting, the easier he's gonna rock when striking. When he's right in the middle, he's a little bit more stable. Also, a very important part of the bob is the base. This is filled with sand. This has about 230 pounds of sand in it. After all these years and all of this use, there's no cracks, no problems with the base. As I mentioned, this was a request video. This is actually going out to 2 different people. The first person was a little bit concerned about the durability of the Century Bob. Might have heard some mixed reviews. And as always with any product, you might get some mixed reviews. You might get some people who were a little disappointed in the quality of the product. This Century Bob particular has lasted a long time, and it's lasted punches, kicks, martial arts weapons over time. This one has some minor scrapes here and there from the weapons, from the punches, from the kicks, but other than that, he's completely 100% usable. There's no damage to him, there's nothing wrong with him, and he's lasted all this time. That's why I highly recommend the Century Bob. He's held up real well, and he's taken a beating. The other viewer that this video is meant for was a little bit concerned about the anatomy of the Century Bob. Made a good point that the Century Bob's head is a little bit too soft. It's easy to squish in. The head is hollow. There's no skull inside this head. That might be something for Century to work on in the future. Maybe putting a plastic inner inside the head so that it's not so hollow and so soft. They might have done this to prevent anyone damaging their hands, to make sure you always wear gloves if you don't wear gloves. This way, if you were to hit the Century Bob very hard in the face, you wouldn't damage your hand. That's what gloves are meant for, to protect your hands. So the head is hollow and it is pretty soft. It is durable rubber, but it's pretty soft and it's hollow. The body, our friend was saying that the body was a little bit hard, the head was too soft. A boxer's body will always be hard, and it won't give as much because you're striking the center. He's grounded. If I strike to the center, he's not going to move as much as if I strike to the head. just like a real person, just like a fighter. When a fighter gets hit hard to the head, his head snaps back, his head gives, just like on the Century Bob. So even though his head is a little bit soft, the Century Bob will give when I land shots to the head, as it should, as an opponent would in the ring. His head will snap back and his head will move. Whereas punches to the body on an opponent, if he's grounded and he's got a good strong stance and he's not trying to roll with the punch or pull away from the punch, their opponent would stay just about as Century Bob does. The stomach is not too hard. It's not as hard as plastic or anything. It's not like the center here. It does have the plastic behind it, giving a little bit more durability for the body shots to the stomach opposed to the head. Something for Century maybe to work on in the future would be to put something inside the head of the Century Bob so it's not so soft, and having the anatomy of the neck, the head will still be able to snap back, but making the head just a little bit stronger and not being able to smush in like this. Century might have had in mind keeping their buyers safe from injury. Boxing gloves are to prevent any injuries from your hands. This might be why Century chose to keep the head hollow and not put any plastic skull inside the bob, so that when striking, if you're not wearing gloves, you don't damage your hand. The Century Bob will give, not only in the cheekbones and in the forehead because he's hollow, but also from the anatomy of the neck. His head will snap back, making it realistic as if he was an opponent. So for the most part, I've always been happy with the way the Century Bob reacts to your strikes. If I strike an opponent with a good stiff jab, his head will snap back. When I strike the Century Bob, his head snaps back, just like as if I was in the ring. When I strike to the body on an opponent, if he's not pulling away from it or rolling with it, he'll be right here. It'll feel just about the same force as I'm giving on the Century Bob. It'll give me the same resistance when I strike on a real opponent. There is one problem I do see with that softness in the skull of the Century Bob. When sparring and when fighting, there is moments where you land a shot to your opponent's head and his head doesn't snap back, as the Century Bob, his head will always snap back. It's soft enough and loose enough, and with the anatomy of the neck, his head will always snap back. But there is instances in sparring where your opponent's head won't snap back that way, and that's when he goes from here to here. He tucks his chin just a little bit more as that punch is coming, forcing you to land right on the tip of his forehead, thickest part of the skull, to avoid too much injury. If an opponent is too tired in his arms to be able to cover up, or he realizes he's not going to slip this punch in time, a lot of old fighters would do this. They would go from already having their chin down to just going down a little bit lower, changing your punch landing on your nose or your forehead. You'll force the hand to land right on the tip of the skull. And a lot of times when you see that, you won't see the head snap back the same way if you land it to the nose, the chin, or the forehead. You'll just see that head compress back a little bit. The head won't give as much. This could be a good point that my friend was making in that softness on the Century Bob's head. This is also why I like to use headgear on the Century Bob. It gives a little bit more durability on the skull for those hard shots. As always, it always depends on how you look at something, depending on someone's opinion. I've always felt that the Century Bob gave a real realistic feel, comparing the training I've done on him to the sparring I've done in the ring with hundreds of different sparring partners. Ways people react and ways people take punches. Everyone has a different amount of strength in their core. Some people have that rock hard stomach because they don't want to get winded or get hurt from those body shots. Some people are a little bit softer in that area and can't take body shots. I feel the Century Bob has a good, strong body. When I strike to the body, it feels almost as if I'm striking an opponent in the ring. The way the head gives when I land jabs or crosses, the way the head gives when you land hooks, how it gives a little bit, is very realistic to an opponent taking a hook, rolling with it, coming back from it. The Century Bob gives a pretty good feel for how it would be in the ring. To purchase your own Century Bob, I've provided links in the description below. I hope this video helps you guys out on choosing what type of equipment to buy for your home gym. Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe to Prime Martial Arts. Turn on notifications for all future videos.